Hello everyone, I'm Cyber Academics and I'll be going over how to pass the CompTIA PenTest Plus exam. Now I did take the original exam, so of course I looked at what's been updated, what's current, what to expect, and I want to help you guys to feel good and to feel confident going into the exam. I'm going to start off with some great resources to take a look at. So as always, the first thing I recommend with any CompTIA based exam is that you go to their website and you want to look at the official syllabus that CompTIA actually gives you. So you can see here for the PenTest Plus, you can see there's a little email section here. So if you put in your email, it will actually give you a list of the domains as well as the terms to expect. So I did kind of a +1 for you guys to help you out, and I actually made a study guide with all those domains and terms defined free. So I'll show you guys that very lightly here. You can see this is the study guide I have here, and this will be in the comments of the video. Look for the first pinned comment, and you should see the link to this resource. So you can see engagement management, 13% of the exam. Reconnaissance and enumeration, this makes up 21%. Vulnerability discovery and analysis, 17%. Attacks and exploits, 35%. You can see this makes up a majority of the test and is very crucial as a red team penetration tester to understand the attacks as well as the exploits that you can use at hand. Lastly is a post-exploitation and lateral movement, which adds up to 14%. If you go through this, again, these are all the domains as well as terms defined from the CompTIA syllabus. So you can see here kind of like some of the pre-engagement information like the scope, framework, some legal standards I have here defined. And this is a pretty big study guide. You can see it's 38 pages. So this is free for you guys, and I hope it really helps. Going on to the next resource, I would highly recommend if you're someone like me who's like a video person, you like to watch videos to learn and digest information. This video is 3 years old. It's not going to have some things like cloud computing and AI, which is kind of the newer things added onto the PenTest Plus, but this is a great resource. The video is 11 hours, so it is pretty long, but it covers each domain except for those two I mentioned prior, and it's a really good video and resource to use. The third resource I wanted to mention is the PenTest Plus study guide. Now this is on Amazon. It isn't a free resource, but I've used this study guide for each CompTIA exam that I've taken, and I think I've taken over 8 exams so far. So this is very helpful. It goes over the terms in a very short manner and goes in depth. And then it also gives you, I believe at the end, like a practice exam. And for me, that's kind of like the bread and butter of why I bought that, to really help me just with questions and getting comfortable with that. Another resource is the PenTest Plus by Jason Dion on Udemy. This is another resource that you would have to pay for. This is actually the first resource I used after going over the study guide for me that I used to study, and I watched this entire course. I really think this helped me pass because just to give some background, I've grown up being in Kali Linux. My favorite area of cybersecurity is penetration testing. So I only took about 3 to 4 days, I believe, to study for this exam and passed. But even with that, right, I wanted to feel good. I wanted to study. I wanted to be confident. So I used this resource and I went through it in just those few days. I spent the entire of that portion of time just watching each video and taking quick notes. So I can't recommend them enough. They're a wonderful resource. Another kind of added resource, and this one I would say is only if you want to know extra things with penetration testing. Let's say you want to get into it like me as a specialization. Heath Adams is the owner of TCM Security, and so you can actually look at their trainings, their certs. They have a lot of things revolved around ethical hacking and red team based, basically cybersecurity practices. So this is an amazing resource. I even took their PJPT, which is one of their penetration certs, and I can't recommend them enough. The last resource I wanted to recommend is this website. It has a lot of practice-based questions for your exam and will really help you out with studying. It's pretty similar to the exam for the most part, so this is a free resource, and I would highly recommend going through this. So now moving on to just some extra tips and expectations. If I had to say anything to anyone about this, I would say scripting. make sure you can understand looking at very basic standard scripts and you can know what's going on. So to give a very vague example, they might throw a question at you dealing with Nmap, which I love Nmap. I've done a hacking exam and used it to look at the network infrastructure of a company. And so with Nmap, they might throw, right, this company has this, blah, 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 for the scope and what's going to occur. Now, you as the penetration tester, which scripts would you use for the following? And they might have, right, that script with Nmap that has different things in there, and maybe it's doing like a scanning of the subnet, and it's going to ask you, right, which script looks correct for this. So you want to make sure you can read the script and understand, okay, what attack is this going to initiate? What things is it going to touch in their infrastructure? That's really what they're looking for. They don't want you to know, oh, I know what Nmap is and that's it. They want you to know, okay, what are some basics maybe to like a program like Nmap, so you can really get the whole picture. Besides scripting, another tip I would mention is with every CompTIA exam, make sure you know the abbreviated words, right? So with the lingo, they might throw just shorter terminology to the same type of word. That's all going to be in the syllabus at the very end, I believe, for looking at those shortened terms. You want to make sure that you look at a question, you know what maybe a practice is, but it's using the abbreviation of it. You don't want to miss a point just because you didn't maybe know, right, what that abbreviation was. So that's another huge tip besides scripting. The third biggest tip with any CompTIA exam is the performance-based questions. Make sure that, due to time, that you can go through each question. If you're working on one of those and you get really stuck, just star it to move it later at the end of the exam and look at it at the very end, so you can save yourself time and not feel pressured by running low and having a high amount of volume and questions. Those are pretty much my tips that I have. I may do like a practice base exam for the PenTest Plus as a separate video, just like a study practice exam. So if you guys would like that, please let me know in the comments. And I can't talk about this area enough. It's my passion. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and thank you for watching the video.